It's Roger time. Roger Taylor's first solo single, the first Queen solo single. I Want to Testify. Coming up next on PLD Project's Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Project's Crown Jewels. I'm your host, PLD. And this is, of course, the podcast where I take you through the entirety of the Queen catalog, and in this case, the solo catalogs as well. We're going to go through every song and then go through every version of every song, try to figure out which one is the best version or the crown jewel of the song we are looking into. I'll also give you some history, some notes, some quotes, and we'll see if this song slides into my top 10 Queen-related songs of all time. Well, this week, it's not going to be very hard to figure out the crown jewel because, quite frankly, there's only one version. That's right. We are seeing the very first solo single from one of the members of Queen, not counting anything from pre-Queen. You can count Larry Lou Ricks as technically a Freddie Mercury single if you want. I get that. But really, this is the first since Queen proper began, started recording, releasing albums, touring. Roger Taylor was the first member of the band to deliver anything as a solo project. And it's a single. I Want to Testify, backed with Turn on the TV. But this week, we're talking about I Want to Testify. Now, if you're not really thinking about it, you might say that, wouldn't Freddie have been the one to have the first solo single? Would maybe Brian, maybe at that point? Because the songwriters are the ones who write all the songs. I mean, John, probably won't. He doesn't sing. It's going to be harder for him to do a solo project. In fact, he never really does a solo project outside of one single, really. Does some collaborations outside, but never a true solo album. But when you do think about it a little bit, it actually makes even more sense that Roger's the first one. Because, like I said, everybody, right, like Freddie and Brian have their songs on Queen. Queen is their vehicle. Roger probably, and this is my guess, this is not anything I've really read too much about, but Roger was probably a little frustrated in terms of he is a songwriter as well. Maybe he wasn't as prolific as Freddie and Brian were at first, but he was writing songs, and he was relegated to one song per album pretty much. So of course he's probably bursting to go, wanting to get some ideas out there. And as a singer, he's just as good as anyone else out there. So why shouldn't he put forth a solo effort? And in fact, when I say solo project, it is really a solo project to the every extent of the word possible. Roger did all the instruments, all the vocals, sings, guitar, bass, drums, everything is all pure Roger Taylor. He produced it alongside Mike Stone, who had been working with Queen for a bit now. But really, it's Roger. This is Roger at its best. Now, it is a little curious why he would release this song first if his goal was to get out there more with his stuff, because this is not an original Roger Taylor composition. This is a cover song. And it's a really kind of strangely credited cover song. If you look at the credits, it's credited to Clinton and Taylor, George Clinton and Darren Taylor. And the song I Want to Testify was first recorded by the band The Parliaments in 1967. George Clinton was in that band before he became all freaky with Parliament. But in 1974, the band actually re-recorded the song, gave it a more funky treatment, and that was released on their album Up for the Downstroke. However, if you listen to the Parliament track, then Roger's track, you'll discover that the chorus is really the only thing that is similar. The rest is quite different. So maybe Roger should get a writing credit, right? Hold on. Really strangely, in none of the history, and I don't know if Roger knew what was going on. I don't believe he would have done this purposefully. In fact, the one quote I have heard from him makes me think this wasn't done purposefully. There was an a cappella group that began singing together in Brooklyn, New York in the mid-1960s called the Persuasions. Now, they became a very famous a cappella group over the years, discovered by Frank Zappa. They would eventually release a lot of albums. In fact, most recently, despite some of the members having passed away, they recorded an album with the Bare Naked Ladies called Ladies and Gentlemen, Bare Naked Ladies and the Persuasions in 2017. Now, why do I mention them? Well, because on their 1977 album, Chirpin', there is a track that is written by Jerry Lawson and David Dasheff called Women and Drinking. Now, if you listen to this song, which you will, you're going to learn that it's actually exactly what Roger Taylor's song is. So really, even the song is called I Want to Testify, and they're crediting the guys from Parliament. It really is Roger covering this a cappella version, this a cappella song called Women and Drinking. Now, just to make it a little weird, Women and Drinking's chorus is the chorus from I Want to Testify. So I don't know if Roger was just confused, if Roger thought that the Persuasions were covering I Want to Testify because of the chorus in there, or what happened necessarily. But I got to be honest with you, and maybe something happened behind the scenes. Maybe somebody's lawyer reached out and it was never discussed. I don't know. Either way, really, Roger Taylor is covering the song Women and Drinking, which has the chorus of I Want to Testify. I know. Strange all around, hard to wrap my head around it. Either way, it's not Roger's song. Basically, Roger took the a cappella song, rearranged it musically, added a lot of rock and roll to it, a little funk, maybe from the Parliament version of I Want to Testify, mixed it and mashed it all together, changed things up. So he at least deserves an arranging credit, and quite honestly, maybe does deserve a writing credit after all. So despite the credits being Taylor and Darren Taylor and George Clinton, perhaps it should see Darren Taylor, George Clinton, Jerry Lawson, David Dasheff, and Roger Taylor. A few notes before we listen to the track and talk about it. This was issued as a single, like I said, but it did not chart. None of the solo acts would really ever come close to the Queen level of chart success. That's not to say they weren't successful at all. There were some definitely chart moments for all three members of the band who went solo. Again, sorry, John. But this one, unfortunately, Roger's first attempt was a whiff. As far as live performances go, Roger never really did this live. He never really went live until the late 80s when he formed his side band, The Cross, which we'll talk about when we get there. Never did the solo tours by himself until the 90s when his Happiness album came out after Freddie's passing. So unfortunately, a lot of his early solo stuff has never really gotten a live airing. There's a few tracks from his first solo albums that he did play here and there. This one, though, never really got a live outing, unfortunately. He did appear on a television show called Mark, which is led by Mark Bullen of T-Rex fame, in a talk show kind of thing. And Roger did appear on that, but it's more of a music video, really, honestly, than a live performance. Never really doesn't do anything live. He kind of just appeared on it and looked like he was like basically lip syncing or creating a video, kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody was in the day. Not a real music video with any kind of like well-developed storyline or characters or anything else. Just a few random faces here or there, and basically just him standing there with a guitar and singing along. But it's not really a live performance. But that's what you're going to see when you click on that YouTube link I have below. And what I mean by that? Well, I can't play the track here before I get struck by YouTube or struck by whatever. And I don't want to deal with that. So what we're going to do is you're going to pause the podcast, and you go down to the description. There you're going to find 4 YouTube links. One from the Parliament, I Want to Testify from 1967. One from Parliament, Testify, 1974. One from the Persuasions, Women and Drinking from 1977. And finally, what we're really here to talk about, Roger's version, the video version that was from the Mark Bullen TV show. Right now, why don't you hit pause, go down, listen to those 4 different versions, and then come back and we'll have a conversation. All right, welcome back. Yes, now you'll see the entirety of the story at this point. Obviously, from the Persuasions, Roger didn't do any of the spoken word stuff for the intro, but the rest of it is pretty much a rock and roll, funky rock and roll, instrumental included version of the Persuasions track. I do love the a cappella intro he does. A little throwback to that era. Nice little weird bass vocals, weird vocal modulations he does. It's something that ends up becoming a bit of an MO for Roger of sorts. I don't know if he's not confident in his voice or he just likes playing with toys, boys with toys, but he often likes to alter his voice in terms of putting it up, down, computerized a little bit here and there. Sometimes, to be completely honest, I think he overdoes it. In this case, maybe a little much, but I appreciate what he's going for with the whole acapella thing, trying to create that whole low bass voice, which he can sing low, but not have that kind of growly low voice that he wants for the doo-wop section. But it's kind of a cool intro. I do love his little high pitch. Yes, he throws in there all the time. It's kind of a nice little funky thing he does. Then when the music starts, he's got a quite funky groove for a little white boy, huh? What a funky groove. Lays that down rhythm quite nice. He adds some nice little sections in there. He has that women, and as he comes through it, I don't know where that necessarily came from. Nice little addition to it. He's got some great guitar riffs in there. I mean, he's not Brian May. He's not going to be doing any kind of big orchestrations or any kind of speed throughs or anything like that. But especially during that find yourself going down, 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 down part, he's really got that and it's really kind of chunky, really kind of gripped there. I like that quite a bit. And there's a crunchy guitar in the chorus part, which is where you hear the Parliament section coming in, of course. But it's definitely more funky, more stomping. I just want to testify what the women, and it's really got this really kind of excellent growly kind of rock and roll sound. I kind of think of Roger as an aggressive Rod Stewart. I know it's not a lot of people have compared his voice to Rod Stewart, and I can't deny there are a lot of similarities. Although I don't think Rod ever went as hard rocking as some of Roger's stuff. But really, the whole song is a lot of fun. It's a big sing-along kind of thing, a big drinking sing-along kind of thing. Little snaps going on. You can see yourself, Rogers, just kind of snapping along, playing along as you rock on through. Backing choir is just perfectly Queen-like in a way. Not as overly aggressive as Queen's backing vocals sometimes it can be. It's not like overwhelming anything. Like the a cappella choir intro has that, but the rest of the stuff, it's there in the background. If you hear it, some great high notes and great low notes. And what a great version of the song. It's really kind of chunky. I'm actually glad we have all the different versions we have. Each one has a little bit to offer. But this is a really, really fun one. Now, one note from Roger I do have from the BBC in 1977. Roger is quoted as saying, "We came back from America, and there's a sort of slack period. I was a bit sort of bored. I had nothing to do. I just went into the studio with our engineer, Mike Stone, and did an old song by the Parliaments. I've got an a cappella version. I just sort of heavied it up a bit and did it all by myself, just really as an experiment." So that Roger did have the a cappella version, which was recorded that year, released that year. He must have just thought that it was a cover of the old Parliament song. I kind of feel like he might have listened to the I Want to Testify chorus, remembered that chorus from Parliament, and then just kind of assumed that the rest of the song was also the same or similar, or that's where they came from. I don't know. That's what it is. All right, we're going to end that now because there is no crown jewel. This is the crown jewel, just the single version. That's all we have. So nothing further to talk about then. So let's go to our next category, which we have in our podcast, which is let's rate the song and see if it slips into my top 10. On a scale of 1 to 11, because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects, where do I rate this song? Quite frankly, I love this song. I love listening to it. I have a great time with it. I think it's a great debut from Roger, even if it is a cover. It shows Roger doing all the instruments, really experimenting with himself, maybe getting ready to do a solo career, but seeing what he can do on his own without any of his bandmates, just him and the producer. Let's just get in there and what a great fun song. That's what he did. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 11. So there you have it. Now, unfortunately, that makes it so it's not going to slide into my top 10 because all of my top 10 at this point in time are either at a 10.5 or higher. So maybe next time, Roger, I think we might get a Roger song in the top 10 because I do love a lot of Roger's solo career. We'll have to see what happens when the time comes. Well, that will do it for this week, folks. Next week, we will flip the record over to the B side. That's an old song. I know I'm old. I'm actually not that old. I never really did vinyl back in the day. I was born in the cassette age era. But here, in this case, we'll go vinyl. Flip it over to the B side. Turn on the TV. Roger Taylor, fully written song and performed song. We'll talk about that next week. If this is your first time here and you like what you see, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We're trying to do a lot of things on the channel, as well as my sister channel. If you're on YouTube, PLD Projects, the Prime version, the regular version, where I talk about movies and TV shows. I do stuff on horror movies, sci-fi franchises, Star Wars, all sorts of cool stuff over there. This is my music home. Of course, if you're just listening on the audio feed, well, it's all in the same place. But if you want to help the channel even further, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. I do some extra content there. We do some hangouts. We got a chat going with a bunch of cool people. You can join such stalwart individuals as Austin Goodell, Jeremiah Morris, Matthew Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman. Couldn't do it without you guys, or the rest of my crew for that matter. Really appreciate it. You help keep the lights on. I couldn't do it without you. Well, we'll see you next week. Until then, keep yourself alive. And of course, God save the Queen.